liberty, and justice for all.
I haven't talked in the pledge yet. I haven't talked in that yet, so.
Okay, the district mission statement. Mark, please.
Sure. The mission of the Exeter West Greenwich Regional School District is to empower students to contribute to school and community by providing substantial learning experiences in a safe, trusted, and motivating environment.
Thank you. Okay, we have the open forum. If there's anybody in the audience who'd like to speak on something that is not on the agenda, you may do so now. Recognitions and achievements. We have the 2016 Hobie Baker High School Character Award.
Okay. Well, we presented this award last year as well to one of our hockey players. And I'll remind you that the award is about character, and the information that is shared with us when the announcement is made says it starts with character. Success in life, much like success in hockey, demands more than skill alone. It demands a positive attitude, an excellent work ethic, and a will to succeed no matter how hard it can be. The categories, the criteria that they look at in the selection of the recipient are integrity and positive attitude, coachability, outstanding sportsmanship, and community spirit. So for the second year in a row, this award is going to the same family, and we are very proud to announce that Alex Ventura is the recipient. And let me just say that Alex has been in the process of selecting his college for next year, and I have in front of me $245,000 worth of committed funds for his education based on his academic performance in the school. So he is quite a young man, and we're very proud to recognize him for the High School Character Award, the Hobie Baker High School Character Award.
Congratulations, Alex, and also congratulations to your parents. It's nice to have evidence that you're doing a great job with your family, right? Your kids. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, then we'll move on to the senior high school presentation.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here with you again. It seems like just yesterday I was here last year, and the presentation that we're going to do tonight for you actually started at the beginning of this year, that we felt as a faculty, as an administrative team, that we really wanted to try to capture not just the academics, but the piece that we feel comes from our families in this community around respect and the things that they do and their morals and their, the way that they bring up their children. And we want to support it here. It's important for us to keep that same type of support here. They send their kids to us for a great deal of the day, and we wanted to make sure that we follow through and that they know that it's important to us to respect themselves, to respect each other. So, we began with a lot of that this year and a lot of activities around that. We are actually, this Friday in our advisory, going to be showing a video, very quick video that I'll be sending out to the parents on Thursday night with an email around kids respecting themselves. It really wasn't about a boy thing or a girl thing. It really is about, especially in the light of the media and the things that are going on in society, that they learn to respect each other. And so you'll see that when you get them, this Thursday night. But a piece of that also came from this discussion with the faculty and our students that came to our faculty meeting was that they wanted to make sure that they did something and that they contributed. And I'm not going to talk too much about it. I'm actually going to turn it over to Mr. Mike Walsh, who's one of our English teachers, because they've actually taken it and infused what we want them to do into their academic classes. And I'll actually have him explain how it all came about. And we have 3 of his students, Sarah Titus, Kim Brady, and Nick Cartolino, that are here to present to you guys. I think you're going to find it really interesting to hear from the kids' perspective. Some of the things that you see came actually from them. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Mike Walsh, and he will present.
I'm Mr. Walsh. I'm an English teacher at Exeter West Greenwich. I I taught here in 2006 and for 1 year in the position. And then after that, I taught in Warren, and this past year I came back to Exeter West at the senior high. So in a lot of ways, I feel as if I came back home to teach here. I'm joined with 3 students of mine, Cameron Brady, Nick Carlino, and Sarah Titus. We're going to talk about the Clothesline Project. And before I get into the project, I'm going to talk a little bit about the history of the project. The project comes from a foundation called the Lindsay Burke Foundation. Lindsay Burke was a student at North Kingston High School and also an education major at Rhode Island College. She was known in North Kingston and throughout the greater community as a person who was known for her charitable deeds. She donated money to the September 11th Relief Fund and to United Way. She was caring, thoughtful, and a role model for her peers. She met a boy at a wedding she attended, and unbeknownst to her, she became a victim, and throughout that relationship, she was abused, and later she was murdered by that same boy that she had met. After her death, the student council president at North Kingston High School visited Lindsay's mom and expressed to her that there really wasn't any education or awareness at high school that she attended on the dangers of teen dating violence. That is what prompted her family to create the Lindsay Burke Foundation. And the Lindsay Burke Foundation is meant to provide awareness to high schools in Rhode Island. Part of the Lindsay Burke Foundation is the Clothesline Project. This Clothesline Project is a student-led initiative where students create t-shirts with inspirational messages, quotes, images that raise awareness of issues that come to teen dating violence. February is National Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. Coventry High School, Mount Hope High School, Barlow High School, Lincoln High School, Middletown High School, Chariho, North Kingston, Shea, and Pawtucket, Mount Pleasant, EQ Academy, Rocky Hill School, and of course Exeter West Senior High School have all participated in the Clothesline Project this year. We will actually be featured in an upcoming fall newsletter. I have sent them pictures and some things that we have done in the classroom. So so the high school's goal is to really promote this idea of respect. And we want kids to respect themselves, whether they're in a relationship, we want them to respect themselves, respect property, and we want to create that awareness. So I took this Clothesline Project and really turned it into three different opportunities to promote that goal. So students, of course, created t-shirts, and students created a website and a product. Here are some pictures of students in my class making their t-shirts. Some pretty project I submitted there. It looks better on the PowerPoint. So students are in groups working on their t-shirts. And these are the t-shirts that you see when you come into the building. They're hung up in the foyer. They did an excellent job with the t-shirts. A lot of them are very creative. Pictures there. For the website, students were required to have specific pieces of information. First, they needed to have links to the Clothesline Project. On their websites, they had to include teen violent facts. They needed to have a works cited page to give credit to the sources that they were using. They had to provide links for teen support and abuse prevention websites, pictures of the t-shirts they made, and they had to create a YouTube video showcasing their t-shirt and the product that they chose in their groups. And of course, organization, color, and creativity. These are three websites that my students have made, and I'm going to turn the table over to Sarah and Nick. This is their website, and they'll give you a very brief overview of what they have done. Yes.
Okay. So my name is Sarah Titus, and this is Nick, and we made this website for the Clothesline Project. So this is basically our homepage, and just gives you an overview of what the Clothesline Project was. We said the Clothesline Project is a nationwide event that many schools are taking part in. What the project entails is students decorate plain white t-shirts to show dating violence awareness. They then display the t-shirts across their school or communities. The Clothesline Project is a great way to spread dating violence awareness, seeing that this is an issue in our society today. So that's basically it. And down below, we just had links to the actual Clothesline Project website and things like that.
For the next part of our page, we kind of just made it a point to give some facts about teen dating violence and just to show how kind of important it is to kind of express this in schools. An example of this is roughly 1.5 million high school boys and girls in the U.S. Admit to being intentionally hit or physically harmed in the last year by someone they were dating. I think that it's kind of important to include that on your website because it kind of it lets you know that it is a problem and it kind of needs to be addressed. The next page is kind of just a page that gives people an idea of who they can talk to with their kind of experience and things like this, and a couple websites that they can visit for just supporting prevention.
So here's a photo gallery of t-shirts that my group and I made. We just had fun. We were born our group. We had fun doing that. It went on pretty well. We actually made a video of our t-shirts and like the project. It's very short. So that's basically our entire website. And do you want us to show our project?
We'll get to that.
Thank you. And this is Cameron and Cameron's website.
So for our website, we decided to do something a little different. Instead of using like Google Sites, we tried to use Wix, so it's a little like right from the start, it's a little different. And on the home page, it pretty much represents like what teen violence is and how it's become less nationwide, more worldwide, and how it's growing with the sense technology. And this page kind of has like a short rundown of what the project actually is, where it started, and why it's like spreading worldwide, the importance. And here we have a few facts about teen violence. And I have the same fact they had. And then also, teens who suffer dating abuse are subject to long-term consequences like alcoholism, eating disorders, promiscuity, thoughts of suicide, and violent behavior. So, like, teen violence is nothing to put down. It's obviously a big problem. And here are a few support and prevention sites you can go to if you are experiencing teen violence and ways they can stop it. And here we have a quick gallery, a few photos of like out in the foyer of all the t-shirts. Anyway, the video didn't really work that well getting on the website, but I think it was a different way to get to it.
Is that the lead?
Oh, it didn't really get me.
Yeah.
Alright, that's okay. And then we got a few more pages here where you can just go to find facts about teen violence and just want to know more. That's just a basic rundown. What we do.
And this is one more website. This is for a student who is not here. This is her group's website, Clothesline Project. And just very similar to the other websites, there is some information about the Clothesline Project, where it came from, the website's origins, prevention and support information, a YouTube video. We'll just play maybe 2 minutes of that. So it showcases the t-shirts that are in the foyer. And also there's the works cited page to track their information. Kids did a great job on these websites. I was very impressed. And And the nice part about this is that kids took ownership and they worked with their groups using the Google Apps to create this website. In addition to the websites, students had to create a product. And the idea behind the product was to extend the project outside the classroom walls. They had to involve the entire school. Students were very creative with the products they chose. They did, I was impressed, they went above and beyond. Here's a list of some of the products that they created. And some of these products are on your spots. There's a list of teen dating violent facts. The list was sent to students and advisory. Two groups made quotes, messages, and hashtags outside in the courtyard with sidewalk chalk. They were really creative with that. Unfortunately, 2 days later it rained and it washed it all away, but it looked great while it was there. One group, and this is actually Sarah and Nick's group, they made a red pledge banner that you can see it when you walk in, and there'll be a picture of that in one of the upcoming slides. One group decided to sell wristbands. I think that was Cameron's group, and there's actually a wristband at your tables as well. We will be selling these next week, or week after vacation rather, and the money raised will be donated to the Lindsay Burke Foundation. Student one group made posters. Posters were both handmade and computer generated. One group did a newsletter that went to the entire school, and one group decided to create an activity for students and advisory. We challenged every single student in the building to write down on a Post-it note one way they could support a culture of respect in the building. We posted the Post-it notes by grade level, and this was really a nice opportunity for advisories to have a conversation about what they could do to build that culture of respect. In my advisory, the conversation turned into just random acts of kindness, things that you could do for anybody, hold the door with somebody, or if someone drops something, pick that up for them. Just random small acts of kindness, and that is really powerful because we want to spread the message that no matter who you are, anybody can perform a small act of kindness. Doesn't matter how old you are, who you are, student versus adult. So I think that was really effective. This is the pledge banner that Sarah and Nick's group made. We had every student in the building sign it during lunch, and this is displayed. Did you guys want to talk about that or add anything to that?
I just want to say that I thought it was like a really good idea to have these projects, like the t-shirts were like put up around the school, and it definitely like took it out of the classroom, like spread dating violence awareness to the entire school. But I liked having everybody in the school come up and sign this banner, and it kind of like brought us together, and
I
it
agree.
was good.
I think that came out really nice.
Yeah.
And this is two pictures of the easels that are in the front. So every grade level has an area for their Post-it notes. And Art Searle, who is one of our teachers at the senior high, he actually created a short video that showcases what students wrote on their Post-it notes. We'll go ahead and play that. There we go. These are some pictures of the sidewalk clock out in the courtyard. Again, These are quotes that students found online, phrases. Some students drew pictures, some students made hashtags. Again, very creative. And, it's nice to see the students take ownership of their work. That is all. Is there any questions? I'd like to thank Cameron, Sarah, and Nick. I'd like to thank their parents for bringing them here, and thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you.
About that, I don't even think the kids actually realize is that not only did it go outside their classroom into the school community, but it has spread outside of our community, because I'm here at games and things like that on Saturdays when the hoops kids were here, and it was amazing. It was amazing to see the parents and the kids of other communities that have come in and just looked around and talked and had a conversation about the T-shirts, the sign. So it really was something that took on a life of its own, and we're hoping that it will continue, that it'll become just something that we do and something that we are. It's who these kids are anyway, so I just think that it's something that we need to make sure that we promote more. And we have awesome staff here. The academics are amazing. The teachers do great things every day, as you can tell by the money that Alex was awarded. The interesting thing with that is all directly from his work at EWG. He has some very dear friends that are just as talented athletically that are in private schools and have not had that kind of money awarded to them. So they sing the praises all the time, the academics here. But I think that the culture of respect is something too that I think we're really proud of. And I have to say, I think it all kind of began in Barbara Wilmot's class this year. And a conversation that she had with my class. We appreciate that you take the time always to hear some of the things that are going on here. Do you have any questions of me or Mr. Alves or anything that you'd like?
Just had a couple of observations.
Yeah.
I have two daughters in their early 20s, so this really is close to my heart because they came through the system here. I never really had a worry that yet this can happen anywhere. So just because we have a safe community, it can happen. So this is huge.
Yeah.
The other question I would have is there a way to, or any thought, to expand it to maybe work alongside Relevant Scholastic or something like that? Because that reaches out to everybody. And let's face it, students tend to look up to athletes. So if they can set a bar, that, so I don't know if there's any alliance that can be set or something like that.
Well, just with this foundation alone, Lindsay Amber, she goes and it's a requirement of all schools to retrain in this kind of thing. And it's important. This is big, but I think even more important is what we're going to be doing, I think, Friday. And dating violence, it's all, however, that cultural respect. And I think that's why Mr. Walsh kept bringing it to that, to make it. There were requirements of this grant that he was awarded to do this project, which was great. But we wanted it to be more than that. We're worried about some of the things that kids nowadays think are okay. And I'm hoping that Friday, we're really looking forward to the video that we're going to show Friday and some of the discussions that may happen within the advisories because it's a powerful video. I actually will share it with the committee as well since it's a very powerful. We showed the gymnastic team and they were in tears. And they were, because I wasn't sure right away whether or not they think, were they okay with us showing it? And they were like, absolutely, our kids need to see this. It's important. So, and again, I thank Barbara Wilmot for bringing to our attention.
Did you do any surveys with the students to see how effective this was and then?
Not yet. After Friday,
That
we're
would be
going to do
good
that.
to see.
Yes, yeah, I agree. And I agree with, I personally shared the video that we're going to be showing on Friday with other colleagues of mine, principals, that have said, we're going to take this to our school. I actually would love to see, because this needs to stop young. It really does. And when you see the video that I'm talking about, I'm not going to explain it all, but it makes you think very differently. And I was a grandmother, it makes me think about some of the conversations I was having with my grandson and my granddaughter around as they grow up, things that are just, it's not okay. So it's a good topic, and I applaud the staff here and the kids here really for wanting to tackle it, being Any other questions, anyone? Well, it was a pleasure. I can always say thank you. Thank you, guys.
The first thing regarding the consent agenda is that item B1 needs to be pulled. So B1 is listed on here as an appointment, but it mustn't be pulled from the agenda. So the remaining items are the approval of our regular meeting minutes and executive minutes for March 22nd. We also have a coaching resignation, and it was an email that was placed in your packet. I didn't make copies, but I will tell you that the signed copy came in. If anybody wants to see it, it's the same letter, but with a signature. In addition, there are two proposals from elementary classroom teachers requesting a job share. And the first one on the packet, it said that the request would be forwarded, and it came in the day after the packet was sent out to you, so you have a copy of that on your table. And then the other one, the copy is in your packet. So these two teachers, I actually put together, so they're each giving up, or they're each leaving their 1.0 position temporarily so that they can take part in the job share, but because there's two of them, I can easily put them together. They will both be in grade 6, and they're quite happy with that. So that is typically a tough issue for us to resolve, to find another half of the job share, but this works out nicely. And then at this point, we are ready for awarding the sabbatical. Mr. Searle is our only applicant, and in meeting with him, he has requested the opportunity to teach a class each semester, and that's why the sabbatical is broken up the way that it is, because he wants to have some assigned classes so he can stay fresh with that. And then, of course, we have our monthly bills, and that covers it.
Any
Is the job
questions?
share a 1 year for them? Like they have the potential to be full-time the following year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they both own full-time positions.
Right.
So what will end up happening is that as a result of the two of them being put together in grade 6, Christine's job will become 1 year only, and it will be awarded to somebody who otherwise may have been placed on layoff this year. But she'll be able to bid on that position that goes up at the job fair.
Any other questions?
I do have a question about that, just for clarification. With one of the teachers will be teaching a 6th grade class, and the other is class 1 through 6. How does that work?
Yep. So Mrs. Packer owns a grade 6 classroom. No question. Mrs. Scott owns a class that will be somewhere in grades 1 to 6. We just don't know yet. Because there's a 6th grade classroom that's eliminated and a 1st grade classroom that's open. I could say that she owns the 1st grade, but there might be movement first.
Right.
So wherever that opening ends up is what she will own, but she's leaving that to go teach the other half of Mrs. Packer's 6th grade classroom. So I don't know where the opening will be, but wherever it is, it's Christine's by ownership. Since she'll be going to Mrs. Packer's, then that position becomes the 1 year that somebody else will fill. And so then if they decide that they don't want to job share the following year, then Terry goes back to grade 6 and Christine goes to whatever grade level that opening ends up in after the job fair. Okay?
Yes. Thank you.
Anybody else? Good. Put that motion.
Make a motion to accept the consent agenda after pulling 6B number 1.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
And the item that was pulled, no action.
Okay. We have correspondence. We have some discipline reports. resolution from Exeter Town Council. Okay, 2000, any questions on the correspondence? 16, 17 budget.
I don't have anything new, except that, of course, we know that the budget passed last evening. That's a big deal in case anybody didn't know. Budget passed last evening. And then just this afternoon, I got word that the bill regarding the regional incentive. So there's several bills that are out there, but the one that addresses specifically regional incentive, reinstatement of the regional incentive, is being heard this week. So the Senator Phelan is the main author, although there's several others that are involved. But he's seeking either face-to-face testimony or written testimony. I haven't really had a chance to look at when exactly that is. So one way or the other, I'll either attend and give testimony, or I will provide written testimony, as well as the superintendents from the other regional districts as well. So keep you posted on that. And then we're waiting on, remember what was said at the State House that evening, that they're looking at the additional revenues that came in, and they would make some decisions in May about regional transportation money, and that is on the list of things that the governor's office is looking at in terms of using the additional revenues for adding funds in various places in her budget. So those are a couple of things that are happening. And in both of those cases, it doesn't change our bottom line, but it certainly addresses the issue that we are paying attention to with Exeter, and indirectly benefits West Greenwich as well.
Mr. Phelan is Bristol Water.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, we have the monthly subcommittee reports. Policy update sheet. Jim's in both of them.
No, the ones on that, the ones that are in yellow are on tonight's agenda. So after tonight, hopefully those will be done. And then the ones that are in green are still, those 3 policies are being drafted right now based on the recommendation. Just see that 8510 has been added to the policy on naloxone, which is the medicine that's for a drug overdose, and we're required to have some on the campus. All schools are. So there's a model policy that's out. Bill is working on putting that to its final format. So hopefully the next one.
Any other subcommittees, Trippers? Anything going on with charter subcommittee?
No, I'm gonna get something.
Okay.
Actually, I think it's with Bob called me last time.
Okay. He's away this week, so.
That works for me.
That was the last time that he was going to call me.
Okay. All right, monthly status reports. Anybody have any questions on those? Comments? Everybody's good? Okay. Okay, new business. We have the school start time discussion.
This is a topic that has been receiving quite a bit of attention. There's a lot of research studies that are out there looking at sleep patterns and the effect of early start versus a later start on adolescent minds. There are several districts that have taken a look at moving their start times for the upper grades, the junior, senior high school, to as late as 8:30, in some cases 9 o'clock. And I know that in this community, we've actually had some some interest. We've received a couple of letters. I know one of the letters that we received, the author is in our audience tonight. And so I thought that this would be a good time for us to just be able to have a conversation. I will tell you that the issue here, part of the issue here, outside of the research, is the size of our district and the length of the bus runs. And it's one thing if the bus runs are 20 minutes long and you can have tiered bus runs and you can have the start times 30 minutes apart from each other. But we have bus runs that go as far as Connecticut, down 102 that way, and almost on the URI campus down 102 this way in Saunderstown. So the amount of time that we have between runs in the two tiers that we have is fairly lengthy. So I did also have a conversation with our bus company as well, just because in case he saw this on the agenda, I wanted him to be aware that what it was about, and I wanted to just run a couple of scenarios by him just so that we have that perspective as well. And we talked about 3 scenarios. The first scenario would be changing the order of the grade level tiers so that elementary goes earlier and the secondary goes later. And that really does a couple of things. It just shifts whatever concerns we had about secondary to another age group. But also, the earliest run that we have starts when it's dark outside. And I don't know that we want kindergarten kids out at 6 o'clock in the morning for their buses. I don't think that would fly. So that's the first scenario. The second scenario would be to keep the tiers of busing the way that we have them, but just shift everything up. And the concern there, although I'm not an expert on the time that the sun goes down, but the concern there is we have to pay attention to the later we go. Is it possible then that the elementary kids are being dropped off after dark? There are school districts. Yeah. So right now it's about an hour. The longest bus run is an hour and 3 minutes or so. So they're on the bus at 3:10 because they pick up both Metcalf and Wawamoo. They're home by 4:10 or so. So think about how many minutes we could move before it becomes an issue with the timing at night. So that's just something for us to pay attention to. And then the third possibility, the third scenario would be combining the 2 tiers into 1 tier, which seems to be the approach that a lot of rural communities have used, not in this state, but in states where we're talking really rural. And the bus company's comments were that we definitely could accommodate that on many of our runs, because if you look at ridership of the elementary tier and ridership of the secondary tier, they could fit together on the same run, no problem. But there are certain runs where ridership is high in the more populated areas. So if we left the runs exactly as they were, then there's about 6, and Scott said 6 to 8 runs that will require a second bus in order to accommodate. So the buses are $360 roughly per day. If you think about that times 6 buses, it's a lot. But I don't know if the bus routes could be recalculated where if there's a cost associated, it could be, by recalculating the routes, because some have low ridership and others have high ridership, if that's a possibility. But those were the 3 scenarios, and I don't know, I'm just guessing. This is why it's on the agenda. Scenario 1 with changing the order doesn't really make a lot of sense with kindergartners being out at 6 o'clock in the morning. Scenario 2 probably gives us a little bit of flexibility, but I don't know how much. That's just shifting the start times up a little bit. I could investigate, I know the start times. I could find the start times as a list of them in other communities. And what is the latest time really that kids could get home where we wouldn't have that issue of it being too dark during that time of year. And then if scenario 3 is something that, depending on the conversation you want me to look further into, I could start doing some work there, but that's a lot of work because it's about kind of re-establishing bus routes and minimizing the cost. The bus company's concerns for scenario 3 had to do with difficulty finding workers, meaning people who would come and do that minimum amount of work for one run in the morning and one in the afternoon. Because their hours obviously would be significantly reduced. So remember that some of the additional cost, if we had any, would be offset by gas costs and employee salaries. So those are just some of the things that I figured would become part of the conversation, but really the initial conversation has to do with this large amount of research that's out there and the pretty heavy interest that seems to be spreading across the United States. There's a lot of people paying attention to this issue. So I put it on the agenda so that we could have a conversation. You could, if there's things that you want me to look into, if there's more information. I don't know if there was comments from the committee, from the floor, but this is an opportunity for an initial conversation.
What about parents' work schedules? And how does something like this impact parents' work schedules?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know the answer. I don't know everybody's work schedule, but I know that no matter what time we start, it's an issue for some parents. It might make it easier for some if we change the time and more difficult for others. So I don't know that there's a perfect answer.
Has any district in Rhode Island started this? I know East Greenwich and Barrington were having some real heavy conversations, and I know they were going to, but I don't think either district has actually implemented it yet.
No.
So I don't know if there's any district that has done it yet.
There's 2 schools in Providence right now that have moved to an 8 o'clock start time. North Kingstown is very interested.
They just put a survey out, I saw it.
The survey, they've done several surveys, but they've identified the actual cost because it takes a little cost of money to add buses. And I know the superintendent, Dr. Roger, has included that funding in his budget, but they're still in the process of determining whether their budget is going to pass or not. And Barrington has not stopped the issue, but it's been.
It's kind of a table.
Yes.
I was just curious if anyone had done it so you could see, did it work?
Many have done it.
Yeah, they've done it.
Not in this state. Do you know
The
other-
Providence schools have moved Wednesdays up to 9:25 so the kids can get some sleep. Hope Classical and Central are all talking about changes. Westerly has done parent surveys, and they're thinking of moving the high school from 7:20 to 8. Warwick Public Schools are looking into it. Like you mentioned, St. George's has moved from 8 to 8:30 and found a big difference in their students. Cumberland is now 7:55. And North Kingstown is talking about it.
Classical was always a late start, now they were always 8. So they weren't going to do 9.
How does this impact afternoon programs? Sports.
Yeah. So right now we get out at 1:37 or 1:38 or so. The schools that start at 8 o'clock will get out at between 2 and 2:10, depending on the length of the contract. The teacher work day and the student work on the student day. They would still be out by 2:10, which is fine for travel. There are other schools that get out that early. But this is a big undertaking, and this is not something that we can just say, we're good for next year. But I just didn't want to move on anything until we at least had this discussion. I have concern. I would want to do surveys. I would want to engage in some conversation. I know Valerie had asked that we have this discussion.
read the, if you can't start before 8:30, it kind of doesn't make sense. A lot of, that's out there. I'm doing a half hour, doesn't seem like it'll solve the issue. It seems like the kids, between 9 and 11 is where they're still sleeping. Their brains are still sleeping. So if we move to a half hour, I don't know that it'll have the impact it needs to make with everything we'd be having to change. And I think if we're going to move it, I don't know, I'm thinking, if you read all the studies, they're saying 9 o'clock on.
Yes.
Start time.
They say 9 o'clock on.
8's even too early,
Yeah.
but it's better than 7.
We start at 7:22, I think, the high school will start at 7:22. So to move it a half hour with everything we have to go through, I don't know. If we were going to look at seeing if we could do something, I think I'd probably look at 8:30.
Yeah.
That to me would be the only way it makes sense.
St. George just changed from 8 to 8:30 and found a big difference in the students' performance. High school.
The other thing, concern was option 3, is more mixing, obviously, kindergarten, I know we don't have a lot of seniors that take the buses, but, it's K-12. I know the buses could probably have assigned seats and whatnot.
And we also, I would think that if we ever went to that option, the bus monitors would remain, so that there could be some additional supervision, so we wouldn't see any savings in bus monitors. I think we would move that for that scenario.
But in the heavy, when you said the populated areas that would need 2 buses, you could leave one bus like K to 6. No, you couldn't.
Probably,
Yeah, we could.
Actually, probably do depending on the run.
Yeah.
How they're going to divide up the buses.
Right.
They may not even based on putting K to 6 on one bus and
Right.
7 on the other bus.
I don't know if I'm 5-year-old with a 6-7-year-old.
And you wouldn't be alone.
I'll let you know in our district that would be it.
I don't like 5-year-olds with the 11-year-olds, but that's okay.
Have any of these studies
There's some
looked at,
good things on the list.
have any of these studies looked at the hours of sleep that these kids are getting, what times they're going to bed? All we're going to do is see a temporary blip by moving things later, and then they're going to stay up later because they don't have to come to school, and we're going to break back where we started from.
Well, if you read,
How did we all wind up where we are?
if you read the study, it's like anything, with research.
Yeah,
It's
well,
better as time goes on.
I don't believe all the research that I see, so.
Well, I think the biggest thing is, from what I read, is the melatonin. So the melatonin in teenagers gets released in their brain later on in the evening, if you will. So, when you have your kids say they can't fall asleep, it's 10:30, they're still awake. They say the melatonin in teenagers gets released later, so they fall asleep later, and their sleep cycle goes into the morning, so that if they're, so when they're waking up at 5:45, they're still in REM sleep, if you will. I guess it's in REM sleep.
Yeah, and it happens in
so
the teens.
they're still in REM
Yeah.
sleep. So when your child wakes up and they're a zombie, and they don't look like they're actually awake, they're not, because their brains are still sleeping.
So they're going to bed early enough, they just can't fall asleep. And if you notice, that happens through the early 20s.
It has nothing to do with
No,
that.
No,
younger
it's-
kids
it's
can
a
and adults can. It's something about that age.
I'm sorry,
Barbara?
I don't know anymore.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What?
This is the Exeter resident who sent the letter. I
Oh, I
apologize.
already sent the letter.
Can you
with
give us your
studies.
name, because I apologize?
Oh, Judy Boss.
Judy Boss.
But there is something about, like you were saying, the sleep pattern once you enter your early teens, like 11 or 12, and into your early college years, where you just can't fall asleep at the same time you used to. And that's why some schools have reversed the elementary school and the high school starting times, because elementary school kids fall asleep without a problem. It's just something.
Let's talk about it function. Barbara, did you want to?
Yeah, I just wanted to concur. I love getting up early and working early, so believe me, this is not in my own interest at all, because I am really vibrant in the morning, and right now I'm tired, but all the research indicates high school kids should go to school later, and it's perfectly fine for the little ones to get up early. I'm not saying to get on the bus in the dark. I realize those safety concerns, but the little ones are up really early. That's their natural body clock. Their circadian rhythm says get up, they're ready to roll. But the high school ones, they're not ready to roll. I mean, I don't really have that strong an opinion what the school committee decides, because my personal interest is, boy, I love getting up early and, finishing stuff. But if we want to do what's right for kids, you'd flip it. You'd flip it. That's really what the answer is, and that's what they do all over the country, because all the research, a lot of the research was done right here at Brown University. Kids from Exeter West Greenwich High School participated in the research that was done at Brown. We did surveys here in the school back like 20 years ago. Yeah, probably 20 years ago. And then some of our students were in sleep studies, and, all the research is universal. With a few anomalies like Lee, who still can't sleep, but,
Well, I was going to say, when does that end?
What age is that?
In college.
College then?
Yeah, you can see the,
Because in college, you're running 24/7 whether you want to.
they just can't get to sleep at night in their
No,
teens.
you don't have time to sleep at night.
But I noticed that with my own children, when they were younger, they were up at the crack of dawn and there.
I'm waiting to go to
I'm
half
on
day K.
I'm on the long bus route, so my kids were getting on the dark time anyway, in the morning when they were young. So. But you always had an adult family.
I mean, if this was something that you wanted me to begin to look at, just sitting here, something dawned on me that isn't one of my scenarios, but this might be the direction to investigate. And that's a flip and a shift.
Right. That's fine.
So you flip it, and the kids at the elementary are not starting at 6 o'clock, but the shift goes up. And then the first tier can run, and then the second tier gets out later, and so the high school kids might be getting home a little bit later, but that is a better scenario than your youngsters getting home a little bit later. And of course, any district that has started these conversations, it's about surveying and compiling the research and parent information. But before any of that happens, before any of that is investigated, I bring it to the table.
I feel like the whole state would have to sign on to it to avoid all that, the after-school activities, and I know they wouldn't.
The high school games don't start until 4 o'clock, but like for the sports.
Middle school's 3:30.
They start at 4. Freedom softball starts.
Yeah, the schools will wait.
They start 4:30.
They make a combination of cases where schools get out a little bit later. When I was an administrator for a middle school, the middle schools, their start and end times were very different. Most high schools start early and get out early, but you have, this middle school starts the same time as our high school kids. There are other middle schools that are in the second tier in their districts, or the third tier in their districts. So you had some schools getting out at 1:30, like this one, and the school that I was at got out at 2:45. And we still had athletic contests, and we were in the same league. So you make accommodations. When you play the school, start time is at this time instead of this time. That's just a matter of communicating with the interscholastic league and the Rhode Island principals committee, so that when they're doing the schedule, they make it a little bit.
Now, just to throw a little wrench in this thing. So, if the governor's suggestion of students being able to pick their schools,
Good point.
what does that do? I mean, you're going to have different districts at different times.
Well, I'm personally not interested in that I mean, the school committee could overrule me on that, but I haven't heard.
But I think it is, sounds like something we want to certainly look into, right, and surveys, everything has to happen. But do we have to at least work a little bit closely with Charo, or is that not going to be an issue after next year? As far as the...
Well, the Charahoe run is its own run.
Okay.
there's going to be, there's a lot of information that I don't know. And I could spend a lot of time gathering lots of information, and at the end of the day, you could say, we can't move, we can't do anything. But there's a lot of districts right now that are paying attention to this, and I feel like we at least have to do our due diligence and be aware of the research, understand the views of the community, and understand the details around the logistics and the cost before a decision is made. And then whatever decision is made is a decision that's based on the full scope of information.
Can you extend it to electric boats when it's not?
I know. No, your melatonin is just fine.
Oh, my.
Take a supplement.
Well, I'll tell you what, if we can work something out where we have some kind of a partnership, and there's a lot of our kids that are doing some work at electric boat, then there's...
I think that's a thing.
Can I add an observation? So I'm looking at East Greenwich's study that they did, and they looked at comparable districts, what they type of comparable districts, and certainly we're in there, North and South Kingstown, Narragansett. But so is Cranston East, Cranston West, Warwick. I think our district is so unique in as much as every student takes the bus. There isn't any student that walks to school.
Right.
And that's not true in these other districts.
Mm-hmm.
And when I hear that there are children that go to Wawalong that are on the bus for an hour, I just think that that's outrageous. And my own children, I live 10 minutes from the school, and they're on the bus an hour. So if you adjusted nothing in terms of school start times, but put more buses into the works, I know that's a lot of money, but that as a plan A, and everybody's ride was reduced by a half an hour, that might accomplish some of the scheduling without changing school times, without flipping anybody. I do remember, my oldest child was 11 and standing on 102 in the dark for a bus when we entered 7th grade. And I was crazy. It's pitch black out there, and those Connecticut commuters, and he was 11, so I can't even think about putting younger kids out in that situation. And when I get out of work at 4:30 in the winter, it's dark. So that's definitely something that can't even be considered for younger kids. So maybe we can address it through additional busing. Or even,
I do know this, additional busing could resolve for some, but our furthest routes,
Upward 65. It's
you
just
know,
plain
a
distance.
couple of stops along the way, and
Right.
it's an hour drive straight.
Right.
And I know that there are cases where a bus drives up a road to get kids on one side, and then, turns around and comes right back in the opposite direction to get kids on the other side. And so all that time is the added time, and that's why a 10-minute, you might live 10 minutes away, but if you're on the bus for 45 or whatever the case may be, it's because of situations like that. But there are other runs that are straight shot runs to the edge of Connecticut or to the
geographic
URI
size
campus.
of the district. That's not comparable to some of these
That's
other
Well,
schools
we
that
have
are
a
looking
large
at
mandate
it.
with that, and that's what I said. We have some unique circumstances that make this a very challenging conversation. But
And even in terms of the busing, if regards to our parochial transportation, where we have a hub where buses connect, maybe that's part of the solution too. If there's not full ridership on some of the buses, they're just thoughts. But transportation is a big block of time in the beginning of school and at the end of school that's eating up part of their day. And then you've got the issues with the upperclassmen and their parents trying to get so much into every day, between jobs and socialization and athletic participation. It's not just the school day. So, you know, it's everybody wanting to still have it all.
And again, I'd still like to see more details about these studies and see how, what time are these kids going to bed, what time are they coming up, because my experience with my two, I had one that was a night owl up all night and he'd be dead in the morning, and the other one, she'd go to bed at 8 o'clock religiously, and she was up and bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and fine, so I don't believe it, so.
But there are anomalies, like your daughter and myself, even in high school, I went to bed early too. We're anomalies. We're not the norm. The norm of high school kids, their body clock, it's the norm. There's a lot of research, Lee. I know you might think it's hooey, but it's actually science.
It gets back to the split, okay? I mean, I grew up with parents said, you got to bedtime, you know?
It isn't discipline. They go to bed, but they can't fall asleep. It's not discipline.
No, but once you discipline your body, once you get your body into a routine, you're fine. I mean, I don't know how I got here, and I don't see us helping the children by, well, we're going to move this, and yeah, maybe they'll outgrow this. I don't know. I'm no psychologist, I'm not a doctor, but, you know, I want to see these kids go into the workforce and go to geez, boss, you know what? I can't start my day at 7 a.m. because, you know what? I'm not awake yet. Let's shift the work schedule to 8 a.m. We're not helping them. We're not helping them. We're not. And when they get to college, we're not helping them.
Biology says their body clocks change, though. So
yeah, but everybody's body clock changes differently. Right?
Okay, so how does everybody feel? Does anybody want Jim to move ahead and look into? I mean, I think our biggest issue is transportation. So I would like, personally, I would like it to be looked into, but we have to have a consensus. I think before we do anything, it's transportation. So I think it's actually sitting down with Scott and actually looking at exactly what times the bus scenarios. And because if we can conquer transportation, then we can have, I think, a more serious conversation if it's doable. That's my.
So if there's again, I don't know the right answer. I mean, I'm not an expert in this either. I just know that we're starting to get some healthy pressure to at least consider the issue. We start surveying, we will get healthy pressure in the opposite direction. But then our charge is to look at everybody's opinions and the facts and the details around transportation and so forth and make the best decision. The best decision very well could be nothing changes, but I don't know.
I don't want to put great credit before the transportation.
Yeah, so I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but if we're going to move at all, it's the scenario 4 that I thought about, which is like complete common sense that I didn't have written down, but it's a swap and a shift, because that seems to be the only one that makes any kind of sense. And then kind of working through what that might look like. Because then I think that information would be helpful in a survey, because the survey would say, if in fact we did this, this is what the schedule may look like for a child at this grade level. And then we can get parent feedback.
And I'm not asking for this by pressure from anybody, because that's not how I work. I'm actually, because of everything I read, I was enlightened. I was wondering why my kid couldn't wake up till noon in the afternoon. It's probably his most functioning time. But if you read, I read what Jim put in. I had read his Greenwich's information. I did a little research on my own. So I'm doing it on sheer research and evidence. That's where my opinion is coming from to move forward, not from anybody been asking for it. Do we have a consensus group to look at transportation or not?
I'm just curious the age group that this really affects. It's high school, you would say, more so than
It's
middle?
teenagers. So it's basically when they're going through puberty.
Yeah, junior high.
Junior high through high school.
Probably 13 to, 17.
12, 13. 7th grade to high school.
I'm still waiting for mine to sleep in. We got 12. I got 12, and they're still up at the crack of dawn, so.
Yeah, around 13. It's starting.
Okay, so I got another year.
And on a side note, On a side note, when your kids want to sleep in on the weekend and it's driving you crazy, the research actually says let them catch up.
But they haven't, they still get up really early.
Yeah, but when they get older, they
Yeah,
won't.
oh, no,
Let
I
'em-
will, trust me.
Yeah, when they get older, they won't, and let them catch up. All the studies say let them catch up.
But it's a pretty short period of time is what
It's
I'm
too
asking.
short,
Like, okay.
Okay, we know how we feel. Kara, are you okay with moving forward, having Jim to transfer information?
Yeah, finding out information.
All right, so if you could do that late work on us. I think that'll give us our answer. We can seriously look into it.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Thank you for coming, Barbara, thank you for your input. Okay. We have the new high school course offering, AP Computer Science.
It's fun.
Oh, Marie's up.
Yeah. So I'm very excited to present this new course proposal to the school committee this evening, AP Computer Science Principles. And though our program of studies has already been approved by the school committee, this opportunity really just presented itself. As you may have heard, Governor Raimondo is put forth some monies around computer and using technology in the schools, and this piece about the AP Computer Science Principles course is part of that. So Julie Kennedy, who is our department chair, has attended several meetings, and it happened very quickly. I mean, she was notified one day that there's a meeting the next day and you need to go and find out all this information. So she has done a lot of legwork on this course and other courses that are out there, and this is what we're putting forth to you tonight. So the AP Computer Science Principles course, it is considered dual enrollment. So students who take this course, URI is offering 8 concurrent enrollment credits to those students who successfully pass the course. And the AP, the College Board, is also willing to give students college credit to students who pass the AP exam. What's really good about this is that kids, though we encourage them to take the AP exam and pass it, of course, kids who choose not to do that can still be awarded 8 college credits for taking this course. And there is no cost impact in terms of professional development, course materials. It's all free for this year, which is something else that we're really excited about. In terms of communicating this course to students so that they would know that it's an option for 11th and 12th graders next year, Chris Anthony has already devised a plan of action for how that will be done.
And so there is a $92 exam fee, is that?
Is that, so I just need clarification, is that what students currently pay on their
Yes.
own? They currently pay that?
We do pay on our own.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
So when you said everything's free, other than the...
other than if they want to take the exam as like other college board
In other words,
courses.
the training for the teachers is provided and they get paid, so we don't even have to pay that. The course materials are provided. There is no textbook that's required. There's a device, but all of our kids have devices, and the Chromebook is an accessible platform. But because of the initiative that's out there and the partnership with URI, there's not one single item that costs us any money at all, other than staffing the class. But, like with anything else, we would look at enrollment interest and we would make our decisions, our final decisions around staffing based on what classes we'll be running.
Has anyone been able to look through the curriculum at all? It says the College Board provides the curriculum. Has anyone had a chance to check
Julie's
it out?
gone to these meetings, and I don't know that she's actually had the curriculum in front of her to look through, but they've had some pretty extensive conversations about what the course entails.
Barbara, I just need clarification, the AP, does the College Board provide guidance around that? Isn't it pretty strict?
Yeah, for any AP course,
Yeah.
like you can just go onto the website and they have sample syllabi for the teacher. You can literally borrow one of their syllabi and just use it as your own if you can manage what they lay out. They also have all the like content standards that you're supposed to, bring the kids towards and all kinds of other materials available.
What are the prerequisites?
I believe it's Algebra 1 is what it is. The AP program recommends that students successfully complete Algebra 1 before taking any of the AP computer science courses.
What I like about this is most of our other AP courses require a significant amount of prerequisite work. And this, we have kids that are in 9th grade, they've met the eligibility requirements to take this course. And we have some pretty sophisticated, talented kids when it comes to technology. But this is an avenue where we may attract kids who otherwise would not be taking advantage of an AP offer.
Like you're not going until 11th grade.
This is a pilot year, so they're offering it to 11th and 12th grade.
Because that's what I see sometimes happen, sometimes they get bogged down. They want to take all the they can, but they can only take
Schedule.
a period, so it can be extended to the sophomore or something, something like that.
It's only they can't open up in 10th grade.
Thank you. But, I mean, I think initially, there's a lot of kids that would be interested that will not be able to do this because, I mean, I spent some time in the classroom yesterday and every single one of the kids is taking 3 or 4 AP classes. And that pretty much fills their entire schedule. If you take 4, you can't take another one. Because every class is a credit and a half,
But in 10th grade, you're not.
But in 10th grade, that's where you have the flexibility for AP. But there are also other requirements in grade 10 as well.
Yeah.
So I would be interested to see what we get for interest, enrollment, what grade are the kids in, what's the profile, and if it's not, if we don't have the interest, they have prerequisites. I think if the kid meets the prerequisite requirements, just let them do it.
They need logic for that. I make a motion to approve the computer science principles
Second.
course.
Do we have to wait until the following year?
No.
Grade 10?
No.
Okay.
We can
You're
talk
going to
to
do
you
it
about
first
that. It's the free recommendation that we
Yeah. Because the kids do have some more flexibility in 10th grade.
I can talk to you about that.
Should we put that in motion?
Well, I don't want to make it subject to it being offered, but I would like to strongly recommend that it start in 10th grade. But I think to the more you want more. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Tell Julie thank you very much for all her hard work on that.
She's been great, really great.
Excellent. Good. Okay. Let's see. Next, unfinished business. We have the policies. So let's do 3801 and then delete the rest of them.
Okay, so what we want to do, I think, is go to number 4 first.
Yep.
Because number 4 is the new policy, 3801, that we're seeking adoption. This is the second read, and basically what you have in your packet is the current version of 3801, Introduction to Purchasing and Payment, the current version of 3802, which is simply called Purchasing, and the current version of 3803 called Cooperative Purchasing. The new 3801, item 4 on this section, is a combination of these previous 3 policies, but the practices of the district and the advances in the available technologies and things that we're required to do now are all incorporated into this new policy. So this is reflective of current practices. It's been reviewed by the entire finance office. It's been reviewed legally by comparing it to statute. Bill Clay does that for us. And it reflects all of the information that is currently contained in those 3 separate policies. So this is an up-to-date reflection of what we currently do. And this is an opportunity for questions, but it is a second read. This is the second time it's been in the packet.
Make a motion to approve policy 3801.
Second.
Should we do the new 3801? Because I have a 3801.
Yeah, this is the new 3801.
Just make the motion, approve the new policy 3801.
I'll amend the motion to approve the new policy 3801.
Wait a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
So then I would go to, and you could probably do this all at once, but the motion to delete those 3 policies which are now overridden by what you just adopted.
Make a motion to delete old policy 3801, 3802, and 3803.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have 3804. That's travel.
Yep, 3804 is also a second reading. This is authorized travel and travel expense reimbursement. The previous policy was written in 1992 and was not as specific as what we've provided for here. Again, this reflects current practice. This was part of a grouping of policies that have been reviewed by the finance office to make sure that they reflect current practices, and so we're ready for this one to be adopted as well.
Make a motion to approve policy 3804.
Second.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Reserve capital project, I know Bob has some details on the status report. Well,
That's all we have at this point.
Reports and comments? Yep.
Not for action or anything, but I was listening to a radio interview this weekend from the president of the Rhode Island School Librarians Association. And she was talking about changes that are occurring throughout the districts with regard to the resource of school libraries, changes to their budgets, reductions to their staff. And she named several schools that are affected, and she named Exeter West Greenwich as one of the districts. And I know that I myself have questioned the budget, staff resources, and the utilization of our school library. And I think, one of the things that I always think about is the physical size of what we have dedicated to library services in the school, the access of the students to the services of the library during the day, just how much hard copy do we continue to purchase, what resources we devote to different media in exchange. So those are things that I think that our district has actually made great progress on in the last couple of years, and it's been given good attention and redirection. But I think we're a community, Exeter and West Greenwich, that both have terrific community libraries, very progressive librarians that engage the community in the use of electronic resources and teaching how to sell things on eBay, and a real community resource, and much more than just hardcover books that circulate or don't circulate as libraries are these days. So I only bring this up just because I think that the attention that has been given to some of the repurposing with our library has been very positive. And I think that the attention has been given to making it an excellent resource for our students and for the staff to be able to coordinate their curriculum and work with the librarian. And I just hope that that continues. And just like our arts program is something that the whole community can partake in and enjoy and feel like they're part of it, they're part of the school community is part of our overall community. I would love that something with our school library might be able to have that kind of outreach as well. I don't know how, I'm not that person, but just knowing that our own individual community libraries have become such great resources for our residents. I would love that. I know that the training and the technology is here, and if it could be expanded to be something that the rest of the community can be aware of, take advantage of, that there was some availability other than very strict and limited school hours, that could be a good thing too. So it was just kind of a negative remark, and it was repeated again on the Monday news on WBRO about school libraries. And
So that's pretty interesting, given that we've actually not reduced staffing in the whole district in libraries, but what we've looked at is repurposing what their function is. And so you know that this year, for example, the librarian that's stationed in this room is doing some teaching of one of the technology classes. So this is, the librarian is called the library media specialist. Media is technology, and many librarians teach. So the librarian actually teaching is not different than what happens in many other districts as well. But it's kind of a false statement if they're saying that there's a reduction in library staffing, because it is not true. But there is a shifting in how the library staffing has been used. And I think that's a healthy conversation, because there's, I mean, in the time when there were study halls and kids were able to come to the library, you know, I remember sending kids to the library when I was teaching at Coventry High School. We all had limits on how many kids per period we could send if we ran study halls, but we're not allowed to have study halls. So from the time kids arrive until the time that they leave, they're in classes. And unless the teacher is using the library or needs the library and brings the kids to the library for support, there isn't that structure anymore where kids have some time where they can have access. So things have changed, and technology has changed, and kids' access to technology has changed. Those are the reasons why we've been engaging in some discussions about the function of our library, and it will change again next year. I mean, we've already started some discussions. I've met with Mrs. Chandler at high school, Mrs. Slattery, Ms. Winter, who is our library media specialist here, and we're looking at some of the responsibilities related to technology, how that has shifted. Even this year, our seniors are not one-to-one, but next year the whole school is. So what does that do? What does that change? We're looking at some adjustments, and we've talked about some of the offerings that we can give to kids from our library media specialists in areas related to technology, 3D printing, all of these advances. So you see a 3D printer here. We do have flexible hours as well for the first time.
Right.
And we've rotated between the clerk that's in here and the librarian, so that the library can be open earlier, the library can be open late on a daily basis for a variety of different purposes. So I think we're doing good things, and it's a little disturbing to hear that none of those were reflected in the conversation.
Well, you know, where's the information coming from? Since we don't know about it and we heard about it on the radio.
Well, it's National School Librarians. I'm not sure I didn't catch that part, but it was recognition of the profession, but it was also a delivery of a report and a list of at least 15 high schools. And we were one of them.
And I suspect that in many of those high schools, there is a reduction in staff.
Or budget,
Or
or both.
Or both. But that's not the case here.
And again, there's information coming from. Did they ask any of us?
They didn't ask me. For the record.
That's bad.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Important dates and meetings, so we have April 26th, school committee meeting, May 10th. Our meeting is at Wall. Sorry, I have to turn my mic off. Cookie.
It is
What I was doing. There's someone facing. Okay, so April 26th, school committee meeting, May 10th. Our meeting is at Waterloo. 2024 school committee meeting, and that's for our special ed lineup presentation. And that should do it.
In case it's an issue for quorum, I won't be at the meeting on the 26th.
April 26th?
Correct.
Okay, great. Okay.
Now, I think I heard that Honors Night is the 26th of May. Did I?
Oh, I don't have that date yet.
I will have to get back to
Whichever
you.
night, whichever night's
Yeah.
around, whatever.
It is.
Do you know that from?
It is. It's the same, I think it's the night before senior project. Is that the 26th?
May 27th, there's no school, so I'm assuming.
Yes, it is. It is. Because it kind of was a conflict for me, so I had to reschedule something else to be here for that.
No, is senior project April or May though?
May.
Senior
No,
project is
and
May.
honors night is May.
May 26th.
May. They're both May, and it's, yeah.
The prom's May 27th.
And the prom is the, yes.
Senior project to prom?
They've done it before, they can handle it.
Okay, so May 26th, I don't think so. Okay. That should do it. Yep. Under B.
Under B, yes.
Make a motion to go into executive session under